Hello, thank you for joining Visions Investment Services' fourth seminar in the Women in Wealth series. Take control of your financial future, 5 things every woman should know about investing. My name is Christina Kavanaugh. I am the Operations Manager of Visions Investment Services and your host for today. We truly appreciate you tuning in to our seminar today. Our goal from the beginning was to create a safe and positive environment for all to learn and ask questions about your financial future. As women of Visions Investment Services, we aim to empower, connect, and educate. With that, I will turn it over to our first speaker, Krista Perry.
Thank you, Christina, for the introductions. I am Krista Perry, financial consultant with Visions Investment Services. First, I'd like to thank you again all for joining us today. And I'd like to take a moment to reflect on these next few questions. First, how satisfied are you with your current level of investment knowledge? Are you beginner, experienced, or somewhere in between? What do you want to learn? Next, how optimistic are you about the overall outlook for your investments? Are you half glass full or half glass empty? And finally, how confident are you that you would be able to manage milestones and major life events such as a new baby, a job loss, maybe retirement? Women control a substantial amount of investment assets, and they are going to need to make substantial financial decisions. Women in the U.S. control $10.9 trillion. That's 31% of investable assets. And over 70% of consumer purchasing is done by women. The statistics prove the significant social and economic impact women have today, and it is critical that you are aware of this impact. That's why we're here today. Here are 5 things that we will be discussing. You have instinctive investor skills. It's imperative that you put those skills to work sooner rather than later. Life's other priorities can impact your plan. You are more likely to take time out of the workforce to care for loved ones, so you need to prepare now for time away. Investing for family adds complexity. You need to be aware of and prepare for life's curveballs. And of course, this one, genetics are in our favor. As women, we need to account for living longer and planning our financial future accordingly. And last but not least, partnering with an expert has benefits. Asking for help with a financial strategy may help you reach your goal. Up first is the instinctive investor skills that you possess. You may be further ahead of the curve than you think when it comes to investment philosophy. Let's take a moment to explore this together. As women, we have innate skills as investors. When compared to men, we're less likely to take financial risks, but that does not mean we do not take risks. It means that we are more risk conscious, not risk adverse. And again, to repeat that, we are more risk conscious, not risk adverse. We tend to have a long-term outlook, meaning that when we invest, we tend to buy and hold. In fact, women tend to trade half as often as men do. Women tend to be less reactionary with financial news. If you hear about some market volatility, you won't immediately go to your computer or financial advisor and place a trade. This is a positive investor trait because most investors are looking to reach long-term goals, not just win or lose based on the current market. What does this mean for your portfolio? Since we are striving for long-term goals and not just making reactionary decisions, typically our investment returns on average could be 0.4% higher when compared to men. Next, we're going to look at a slide that outlines how investing is important in the long run. And this slide, we're going to look at keeping your money on the sidelines actually may cost you, not benefit you. As we look at this, for a 10-year period that ended December 31st, 2021, if you invested $200 a month into a hypothetical moderate risk portfolio versus holding it in cash, you'd be looking at an additional $18,356. That's a big difference. Now that you can see the difference between investing versus holding assets in cash, let's look at some tips to start investing effectively. Now that you know you have instinctive investor skills, don't be afraid to tip your toe into the investment pool. Here are some ideas that can make it less intimidating. Work with a financial advisor who can help you start putting those instinctive skills to work and guide you through investing for the long term. Reevaluate your cash allocations and see if it would be put to better use if invested. Keep contributing to your 401k or other retirement accounts. Be sure to check in on those investment allocations and rebalance as necessary. Educate yourself. Be aware of the gender investing gap and make any necessary changes to the amount you invest in your retirement account. Lastly, advocate for yourself and your work. Don't be afraid to ask for an increase in pay and invest in your future accordingly. Now we're going to take a look at our next session, and I'd like to introduce Marcy Depew.
Marcy Depew, financial consultant at Visions Investment Services, the O'Connor Group. And another factor that can affect our financial future is time away from the workforce. Let's look at how life's other priorities will impact our plan. So compared to men, we are absent from the workforce for maternity leave, along with caring for elderly parents. This absence can lower our income and subsequently the amount that we put away into our retirement savings. So 27% of us will stay home to take care of children, while about 20% will work part-time. When we care for a loved one, an aging parent, about 17% of us leave the workforce altogether, and another 17% work part-time. Being out of the workforce may be the right choice at the right time, but we need to prepare financially, either in advance or after we return to the workforce, to kind of cover that gap in time that we are away from the workforce. So when we look at the cost of being away from the workforce, we are missing out on more than just salary. Our resume can be affected by the gap in work history, and that goes hand in hand with potential promotions that we could be missing. The time away also affects our ability to grow our network, along with potential impact that keeps us kind of out of the knowledge base and the new technology and the changing of industry standards. So let's take a look at a specific example of the financial impact when we take time away. I'm just going to read a little information regarding Hillary. She's a 45-year-old nurse manager. She quit her job to take care of her father, who was battling cancer. He's now in remission, and she's ready to return to work. She wants to know the long-term impact of her time away, what that had on her salary, and her retirement plans. Hillary's goal is to retire in 20 years, and she wants to know if she'll be able to do that. In this example, we assume that when she quit her job, her annual salary was $85,000, and she was contributing 8% to her 401k, with an employer match of 6%. Her 401k balance was $100,000. So when she was ready to return to work, her previous position was filled. She was rehired as a bedside nurse, making $15,000 less than when she left. But to calculate that catch-up, we need to look beyond her salary. We need to look at the missed out 401k contributions, the matches, and the investment earnings, and her salary increases. Then she needs to compound this over the next 20 years. When the calculations are all completed, 1 year out of the workforce will have a total impact of about $30,800 in salary growth and about $127,000 in 401k growth over 20 years. So some of the considerations that Hillary should keep in mind as she prepares to be away from the workforce or when she returns, she can adjust her 401k allocations. In addition, she can make salary increases annually, and if applicable, Hillary can open up a spousal IRA. The key to this is to be prepared and to work on things beforehand when you know that you'll be leaving the workforce. And if it happens kind of in an emergency basis, then you need to work on this when you're ready to return to the workforce pretty much as soon as possible. So when we think about 401k allocation adjustments, we need to revisit our 401k or other retirement investments with the financial advisor. This is important to ensure that the portfolio is properly allocated. Increasing the amount of risk that's taken might be scary, but it also may help reach the overall investment goal. For example, over 25 years, a more aggressive asset allocation would have provided 441% more in cumulative returns. That said, the more aggressive allocation isn't necessarily the right investment for everyone. It depends on life factors like your current age and how long it will be before you retire. Again, working with a financial advisor can help you work out all of these allocations and what's relevant in your specific situation. Another thing to consider is adding to your 401k or increasing that every year. A little bit can go a long way. When we think about increasing our 401k contributions just 1% per year, that really adds up. So when we look at someone earning $65,000 a year at age 35, and we'll assume they're contributing 6% to their 401k at a time, and then they start increasing that contribution by 1% annually, they are receiving the 6% employer annual match, which stays static, and a merit increase of 3% and starting the 401k at $75,000 at the age of 35. In this particular scenario, the person who increases their 401k contribution by 1% per year would be looking at an additional $322,971 more in their 401k at the end of the 30 years versus keeping the static contribution rate of 6% over the same time period. And then, if applicable, a spousal IRA can be a good way to contribute to a retirement plan while you're not working, as long as you have a spouse who is working, and the maximum contribution for this type of account is $6,000 in 2022. Now I'll turn the program over to Candace Chapman, and she'll discuss how investing for a family can add complexity.
Thank you, Marcy. And those were great examples, but you're right. There are some life circumstances that add complexity to investing, and that is when it comes to our families. I'm Candace Chapman, a registered representative at Visions Investment Services and a relationship advisor. Let's start with children. It's a big consideration when it comes to family finances. 40% of U.S. households have children. And now think about this. How much do you think it costs, on average, to raise a child in the U.S.? Is it $100,000, $500,000, $200,000, $600,000? If you chose $200,000, you are correct. But that's still a staggering figure, and it's something that has to be considered when you start planning for your family investments. So one common financial planning decision may be, how do we save for our own retirement and save for our child's college education? You know, from birth to 18 years old, it may seem like there's plenty of time, but as the saying goes, blink and they're grown. So let's take a look at one family example. Let's look at Noor, 35 years old, has a 1-year-old son, income of $90,000, and does not want her son to worry about having to take care of her in her retirement years, but also knows that saving for college can be costly. You know, by 2040, the average cost of tuition and fees in a 4-year in-state public school will be more than $111,000, and that doesn't even include room or board. So here's the plan. They take $400 a month and they put $300 into a work 401k plan and then $100 into a 529 education savings plan. They increased the contribution by $25 a month each year for 18 years. In that time, the 529 plan grows to more than $113,000, assuming an average rate of return of 5%. So with the child off to college and that savings plan done, they take a grand vacation, right? Well, vacation or not, here's where the plan changes. They now take $50 a month and they increase their contribution into their 401k plan. And after 35 years, they have more than $1,043,000, assuming a rate of return of 7%. Now that does not include any additional employer 401k contributions. Again, this example is based on individual circumstances and financial situations, and these contribution amounts and increases can be adjusted accordingly. There are other things that you should consider if you're expecting and you're having children. Budgeting for extra pregnancy or baby care costs. Also insurance. Is your health insurance and your life insurance policy, are they both adequate? And then there's estate planning. You want to look at creating a will or a trust so that if something happens to you, there is a plan for your children's care and their financial future. And a financial advisor can help set your family up for financial success. Now, unfortunately, there's another statistic that we have to take a look at, and that is when it comes to divorce. We all know that not all things in life go as we plan, and in the United States, 41% of marriages currently end in divorce. It is a staggering statistic, but it is something that couples need to acknowledge and keep in mind when they're doing family planning. So let's look at the cost of divorce alone. It can cost on average $13,000 for the divorce, and that can range depending on any costly contested issues that drag on the legal process. And then besides the heavy emotional toll, there is a financial impact, especially for women, on your lifestyle and your financial future. And one of the biggest and most common is likely going to be on Social Security, because most women do depend on Social Security for their retirement income. You can apply for benefits from your ex-spouse's Social Security if you were married at least 10 years or longer, you are at least 62 years old, you are not married currently, and even if your spouse has not applied for benefits, you have been divorced for at least 2 years. But then you need to know this. Your own Social Security work record has to be lower than your ex-spouse's. You can take whichever is higher, but you won't be able to take both. There's other things to consider both before and after a divorce. Reviewing your Social Security benefits and your eligibility, adjusting your retirement investments to your new life circumstances. Also, update beneficiaries and your power of attorney, and make sure you understand the tax implications. You, during the process of splitting assets, do not want to be saddled with all of the taxable investments. And also protect your credit rating and make sure that you cancel joint accounts and remove users that you no longer want on those accounts. It's all about planning and preparing. And so next, we turn it over to Katie, who will explain more and explain why genetics plays a role.
Thank you, Candace. My name is Katie Cunin. I am one of the certified financial planners here at Visions Investment Services, and I will be covering the next 2 topics today. So the 4th topic we are going to talk about today is genetics and how they do affect some women's finances. In the United States, the average lifespan of a male is 74 years old. The average lifespan of a female is 80 years old. With that being said, the average difference is about 6 years. And for women, that means we have to plan for a lot more life. Unfortunately, sometimes that means without our significant other. This next slide here, we are going to talk about Social Security and what impact that plays in a female's life. So 42% of elderly women rely on Social Security for 50% or more of their fixed income. And this, going back to what Marcy said earlier, would be because we have not had the privilege to contribute as much in some cases to outside assets like 401ks and IRAs, or even savings and checking accounts. A couple basics on Social Security. So Social Security is calculated off your highest 35 years of earnings. So if you don't have 35 years of earnings, that would mean that zeros go in as placeholders for those years that you had no earnings, which overall lowers your Social Security benefit. This chart here provides what the Social Security Administration considers your full retirement age. So you can look at the year in which you were born or are approaching, and then you can look at what will be considered your full retirement age. Again, if you meet with a financial advisor and you decide to take Social Security before your full retirement age, remember that that decision is permanent. So this example here is of an individual who was born June 5th of 1957 and earns $80,000 a year. And really what this is going to show you is the person starts at 62, they would receive a lower monthly benefit than if they waited till age 70, where they would receive the maximum benefit. Each 12 months, this benefit will increase by around 8%. So this slide here, how does living longer impact your Social Security benefit? Well, if you have a spouse who is always the higher earner, you might want to time when they take their Social Security versus when you do. So you might want to wait till they are 70 so they will have a higher benefit. Because unfortunately, in case of one of the spouses passing away, you will only receive one Social Security. So with that being said, if your spouse had the higher Social Security and he passes away, you will receive his, but you will lose your Social Security benefit, and vice versa. If you were the higher earner and your Social Security is higher and your spouse passes away, you will keep your Social Security benefit, but you will lose theirs. So anytime a spouse passes away, you go down to one Social Security. 3 main points I would like to reiterate amongst this section was plan to outlive your spouse. It's easier to prepare for the worst case scenario. And 2, build assets that complement your Social Security. And 3, talk with your spouse about the timing of yours and their Social Security. We have now talked about preparing and planning, so we will finish up with talking about how an expert plays a role in your unique situation. So let's do one more poll here. The question is, which of the following is the top financial goal indicated by women? A, creating a financial plan to help reach short and long-term goals. B, increasing their understanding of financial planning and literacy. C, reaching out to a financial professional to take action. Or D, investing more of their savings. The correct answer is B, and by watching today, you are working on that exact thing, so congratulations. So this slide shows those goals broken down from most important to least important. And lastly, I just want to go over a few things, wrap it up. So we as financial advisors have the expertise to create a holistic financial plan for you. We will work with you to create a plan that is unique to you and your situation. And with that being said, if you have a need for a will, we can refer you to other outside professionals such as attorneys or CPAs if your tax situation is changing and difficult. We have the opportunity to do that for you as well. And lastly, we as financial professionals will communicate with you every step of the way and be there to support you and answer your questions. And with that, I will turn it back to our first advisor, Krista Perry.
Thank you, Katie, very much. So let's talk about just next steps. So I'd like to wrap up kind of in closing, saying it's very, very important you remember your 3 Ps. Prepare, plan, and partner. That's right, 3 Ps. Prepare, plan, and partner. And feel free to give us a call. Thank you, and I'm going to throw it back to Christina to wrap it up for us today.
Thank you, ladies, for that wonderful presentation. We appreciate you joining our seminar today. If you have any questions or would like to schedule an appointment with one of our financial consultants, please see the end of the video for our contact information or the bottom of the webpage to connect with us. Also, be on the lookout for future Women in Wealth seminars. Thank you so much for joining us again, and have a great day.